Okay, guys, you know I always told you there's more than one way to solve a problem. So, oh my goodness, I don't know about you, but I was worn out after doing 8 videos and trying to upload them, and it took forever. And then you guys had to keep watching videos and tell me you were done. Oh my gosh. So, we've got to have a better way. So, guess what? I'm going to try a different way this evening. We're going to see if it works. We're going to do all one fell swoop, hopefully. And hopefully tonight's lesson isn't going to be quite as involved. Sales tax was a little different, and your lesson had some tricky problems in it. So you need to get your power up. You need to have your whiteboard. You need to have your marker. Yes, we're going to use the whiteboards today. You need to have your math book, pencil. Get something to wipe that marker board with. I don't know if we sent home your erasers or not, but hate to have you can use a Kleenex. I guess those aren't as scarce as toilet paper. Do not get toilet paper. Your moms will get me. Do not use paper towel or toilet paper. You can use Kleenex, I believe. Those are kind of in demand too, but we'll see how it goes. So switch off the video if you haven't gotten those supplies together yet. Okay, I'm going to assume that you're back. The first thing that I want you to do, let's do the power up problem solving together. Just leave that top. What is it in this lesson? I think it's multiplication. Let me see. See what I just did? I put my hand in my mouth. You should never do that. Now, I had just washed my hands before I started making this video, so I'll have to remember to wash my hands again. But let's see, you're working on division. And do those later. Right now, we're going to work on problem solving. And the problem solving, if you want to follow along in your book, it's in your book on page 538. So you can go there. It's another combination. We've got Tanner, and oh, this is such a great problem. He has 3 homework assignments. He has math, science, and vocabulary. Sound familiar, guys? So he's trying to figure out how many different ways can he do that homework. Can he do his math first, then his science, then his vocabulary? Can he do vocabulary and then science and then math? How many different ways can he do that? So that is the problem. On your power up, let's do this together. You need to write down what you understand the problem to be. So let's do that. Understand. My marker's not writing too good today. I don't know what happened to it. You need to understand the problem. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's 3 homeworks, and it's math and science and vocab. Okay? So he has to figure out, and we're going to abbreviate that, math, science, and vocab, M, S, and V. And he needs to find out how many combos he can make of that, because he doesn't know what order he wants to do his homework in. Have you ever had that problem? You just can't decide which one you want to do, or do you pretty much know? I want to do math first. You probably all want to do math first because, I mean, it is the most fun thing that you can do. You know, or do I want to do my vocabulary? You know, Mrs. Thomason's going to vote vocabulary, and that's okay. We love her for that too. All right, so there's our understand. Now let's get our plan. Now, I will tell you guys, like I said, there's a million ways to solve a problem. I will tell you on a combination type problem, like we're having right now, an organized list is going to be the best way that you can use to solve your problem. So, organized list. If you want to do something else, that's your way to solve the problem, but I'm going to work it this way. And an organized list, you start with something, like I'm going to start with math, and then, see, I think I'm just going to, well, I said to grab an eraser, and I did not do it. I thought I did. All right, well, I'm going to have to use my hands here. You start with math, and then you do as many ways as you can with just math being the first one. So leave it math first every time. So we're going to go math, science, vocabulary. Now, is there another way we can do it with math being the first one? Everybody going, well, of course, Mrs. Pullman. Just turn science and vocabulary around, right? So we've got math, vocabulary, science. Now, is there any other way that we can organize those three and have math be the first one? There's not. So we know we're not going to miss any with math being first. Now we're going to go to science being first. So let's do science, math, vocabulary. Can we do it any other way? Of course. We can do science, vocabulary, math. Okay, is there any other way to do it with science being the first one? We've got it all. The only one we haven't done is vocab. So let's do vocab, math, science, and then vocab, science, math. There's no other way that we can do it and have no duplicates, because you don't want to have any duplicates either. And an organized list is the best way that you can do it so that you won't have duplicates and you won't forget one. So I really encourage you to use that. Now, if you have another one and it worked for you, great. Okay, so 6 combos is our answer. Oh, actually, we went to solve. This was hopefully that you guys caught that. That's step 3. Our plan was organized list. I never wrote that on here. Just talked about it. Okay, so then the only other thing that we have left to do is that 4th one, the check. And that's the one that you guys really struggle with. I noticed that on your power-ups when we do those on test day, to check. So how can we check this? I'm going to show you a little trick to doing combination models. So how many different homework assignments do we have? How many different ways can we do, or how many homework assignments do we have? We have 3, right? Okay, so 3. And then how many different ways can each of these be grouped? With math, 2 different ways. With science, there's 2 different ways. With vocabulary, there's 2 different ways. So if we take the number of subjects and multiply it by the number of ways that we can do each subject, guess what we get? 6 combos. So that's a little trick that you can use. You'll use that a lot in things like math counts. Typically, you're going to use your organized list. Okay? All right. So that's our problem solving. I am going to go ahead and go to the lesson. So just put your power up aside, and then when the video's over and I give you your homework assignment, you can pick that power up, finish the top of that division, and then I will post the answer to that. I don't know if it'll let me post the answers on the same activity with the video or not. If it will let me, I'm going to put it on with this activity. If it doesn't, I'll have to do another activity for the lesson. But you do not need to show me the power up. You don't need to copy it or anything like that. That is just for you. It's just for power ups are just for us to practice with on a daily basis, and to give you some brain power. Okay. All right. Today's lesson, lesson 84, is on decimal numbers to the thousandths, not thousands, thousandths, because it's a decimal. Now get those whiteboards out. I'm going to give you some practice problems that I want you to practice, and you see if you can write them on the whiteboard. And I'm going to give you one that I want you to write both ways, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to go get a eraser, okay? So you guys be writing 7/10. I want you to write it as a fraction and as a decimal number. 7/10. Go. Okay, now you should have written something that looks like this. Can Can you see that red? I hope you can see it on the video. You guys are going to have to really give me some feedback on this video. You know, you can write in the comments underneath the activity which you like, if you like this type of video, the one video stream, or if you liked me doing the 8 different ones. I hope you like this one. I hope this one works, because this is sure a lot easier on me. I know it's got to be easier on you. And tell me about the board. Can you see the board and all those things? So, what kind of colors are best? Can you see the red? Can you see the blue, the black? Which one do you like the best? I have green too, so I have 4 colors. All right, so here we go. Hopefully you did that. Erase your boards. I'm going to give you another one. Here we go. I want you to write 12 hundredths. 12 hundredths on your whiteboard. Now you write down whether you think I'm saying the decimal number or am I saying the fraction. Which one do you think I'm saying? 12 hundredths. Okay, which one do you think I said? 12 hundredths. Do you think I said the decimal? How many wrote decimal? How many wrote fraction? There's no way to tell, is it? They sound exactly the same. 12 hundredths, 12 hundredths. They look exactly the same. So when I just say it, it could be either one. That's how you know. That's a good help, a little helper when you're writing them. If you're writing a number, the book tells you write 12 hundredths and you write it like this. You know, there's my, see, I did have my eraser. It just fell. It's weird. Okay, if you write 12 hundredths and you write it like this, that's not 12 thousandths, 12 hundredths. This is the new decimal that we're going to practice on today. This is actually 120, and remember, this is tenths, this is hundredths, this is thousandths. So this is really, I'm going to erase that line because that gets kind of confusing. This number is actually 120 thousandths. So these two numbers are completely different numbers. 12 hundredths, this is 120 thousandths. Now I know that we've talked about thousandths before, but we haven't really practiced using them before. So that's the lesson. Wasn't that easy? A whole lot easier than yesterday. Okay, so with your whiteboards, I'm going to give you a number. I want you to write the number as a fraction. Okay, here we go. 3/10. 135 thousandths. So you should have 135 on top, and you should have the thousandths in the denominator. Okay, remember, this part of the fraction is the denominator. This part of the fraction is called the what? Oh, Avika, I heard you say that. Numerator. Good job. Okay, and remember how you tell them, the little trick to tell them apart? Denominator is the one on the bottom. It's down, down. Denominator down, okay? So, numerator, 135, denominator, 1,000. 135 thousandths. Okay? All right, let's see. What else do I want you? Oh, here, I'm going to write a number, a decimal number on the board. You write what it looks like as a fraction. Okay, what is that number as a fraction? That's the decimal. What does it look like as a fraction? It's the same number. Hopefully you wrote this. Okay? I'll say them. They sound just right. Say them with me. Because you can all talk now and you won't bother each other. 625 thousandths. 625 thousandths. Same number. It sounds the same. Doesn't look the same. One's a decimal number. One's a fraction. Okay, so what if I'm going to throw a little bit of a trick to you here. You think you're just all that. Let me give you a different number. Write this number. Write it as a, I'm not going to tell you how to write it. You write it either as a fraction or a decimal, however you like. Here's the number. 3 and 125 thousandths. 3 and 125 thousandths. I'm getting a little tricky. Did you get it? 3. The trick was that word, that little bitty word, and. What does and tell you? What two types of numbers are we putting together? That little bitty word and tells us that. You're right. A whole number and a part of a whole number, or a fraction. That's what we call fractions. It's a part of a whole number. Okay, so it was, if I can remember what the number was, 3, and we know and is represented by a decimal, and that's why we don't say 101, right? Yeah, you know that. You guys know that. We'd say 101 because that word and is reserved in math for that decimal. 3 and 125 thousandths. So if you did it like a decimal number, it should look like that. If you did it as a fraction, well, that's where the trick came in, because 3 isn't a fraction, it's a whole number. So you've written not a fraction, do you remember what we call this type of number? It's not a whole number, it's not a fraction. It's a mixed number because it has a whole number and a fraction. So it's a mixture of those two numbers, okay? All right, so the key to remember on these decimals is when you have a number that's a tenth, if it's in the tenths place, how many decimals over from the decimal is the number going to be? 1. If you have a hundredths, how many decimals over from the decimal? How many digits over from the decimal will it be? How many place values over? 2 hundredths. And if you have thousandths, you'll have 3. Okay? So, I'm going to give you one more number. Let's practice. It's going to be a tricky one. Remember this. With thousandths as the place value, it has to have 3 decimals to the right of the decimal sign. So now I want you to write 34 thousandths as a decimal. Okay, so first thing you should do, make a decimal sign. And how many places are you going to have? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you want to do 34 thousandths. So did I say any hundreds in my number? No. I said 30, which is tens, 4, which is ones. So that number would be 0, 3, 4. 34 thousandths. That's the way it would look as a fraction. Now, if you wrote it like this, you thought, oh, well, I have to have 3 decimals, so I'll just stick that 0 on the end. Well, that's a pretty clever way of solving it, but not quite right, because if we read this number, what does this number read as? 340 thousandths. And if I wrote it as a fraction, it would look like that. And the number I had was 34 thousandths. See the difference? That's why those zeros, they mean nothing, but they also mean everything in math. It can be the difference between 340 and 34. So zeros are very important. That's why they were invented. Duh, Mrs. Pullman. Okay? All right. So that's your math lesson. You are to do lesson 84 odd. And I have worked all the problems. See, here's all the problems. And I did not see, there's a couple things you need to be careful of. Number 5 is a multi-step. Now, because it was new that we did yesterday, I want to remind you on sales tax, if they ask you about the cost of an item, the first thing you're going to have to do is take the price of the item, add the sales tax, and that gives you the cost of the item. Then they're going to ask you in this problem, if I gave you, I think it's if you were given $20, how much money would you get back? So it's one of those multiple step problems, okay? So don't forget what we learned yesterday. Problem number 9, it asks you to solve it by making a table. So if you don't make a table, you're not solving the problem the correct way. Be careful adding those decimals. And I believe it has a couple of long division problems. Oh, you know what it has? The very last problem has a problem where you have to tell whether you rotate it, reflect it, or translate it. And it's kind of a tricky one. It's a tricky shape. And so what I would recommend you do is, remember when I cut out those triangles and I used the triangles to move things? I suggest that you draw those shapes and cut them out and use them and rotate them. You want to label the corners too so that you know you're rotating them correctly. I think that will really help you with that problem. It's kind of a tricky problem, okay? So if you have a problem with it, please let me know. You can comment to me. I had people text me today. Hey, Tag, you're getting to be my text buddy. And that's great. I love it. When Tag had a problem, he texted me. When Tag didn't have a problem, we were texting. He's the one inviting me to the Zoom. I got a text from Tag inviting me to the Zoom party. So thank you. So anyway, that's it. So happy mathing. 84 odd. See you next time.